Happy Monday evening. Yes, it's like the last 3 days of January. I hope you had a wonderful day. We're going to go back to our leaders, African American men, and pause our book from Wilbur Jones. You know, he was a great chef. Not only he still is, but we have to cover our other heroes. So we're gonna come back to the Soul Food Cookbook because in the next week I'm gonna make that smothered chicken and peach cobbler and whoa, my goodness, the cabbage. Oh, I love it. But for now, let's go on to James Baldwin. He was born 1924 to 1987. That's 63 years. Yeah. When he was 14, that's the age of so many of my beloved 8th graders, James thought he would become a minister like his stepfather. How about that? James was already a great orator, giving sermons in front of congregations. However, he felt frustrated with the church. Around that time, James realized he was gay. The systemic racism and homophobia coming from an institution that was supposed to share messages of grace and love made him feel lost, disappointed, and alone. James left the church and focused on developing his writing skills. For a while, he worked odd jobs and was mentored by writers like Richard Wright and County Cullen. Eventually, James felt suffocated by racism and left the whole country. He was like, I'm through with you all. In 1948, he went to Paris, where he could live and work without fear. In 1953, he published his first novel, Go Tell It on the Mountain, inspired by his experiences with religion, class, and exile. In the United States, the civil rights movement was blossoming, and James wanted to participate. During this period, his writing focused on what it meant to be Black in America. James felt that segregation was the biggest source of strife in the country and that racism hurt white society as well as Black. He called for human equality and encouraged brotherhood over violence. At times, he was criticized for his pacifism, but James never had hatred for any people, only for the establishment and institutions that told people what to do. He became well known for articulating arguments in an elegant way that made Black and white audiences listen. He traveled the country giving speeches and lectures, and he debated and befriended some of the biggest leaders of the day. Many of James' essays, poems, and novels are considered masterpieces, including Notes of a Native Son and The Fire Next Time. He wrote openly about his sexuality at a time when no one else did. For all his work and his words, James was watched closely by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, perhaps because the agency knew the power he had to galvanize the people around him with his sharp and bold messages. And that was James Baldwin. Then the next surprise we have is Harry Belafonte. He was a singer and actor and an activist. Did he recently pass? Oh, yeah, and his daughter. Because right here they have him, he passed last April 25th. Oh, my friend's birthday. At 96 years old. Yeah. So, 1927, yes. Harry was born in Harlem, but spent much of his childhood on the island of Jamaica, where his mother was from. In New York City, he and his immigrant parents lived with other families from around the world. Harry always remembered how hard each family worked, how little they earned, and how much they supported one another. School was difficult. Didn't know this. School was difficult, and Harry felt that he didn't fit in. So he dropped out at 17 and joined the U.S. Navy. Later, Harry discovered that he was dyslexic. Which explained why school was such a challenge for him. I have such a heart and passion for students. You know, people are like, is that a school bus around your neck? I collect school buses, if you didn't know that. Up there, and the books and the pencil. But it's really about children being exposed, and even though maybe not every day they can't take a physical trip, you know, an exhibition or an adventure, but hopefully they feel that way even in the classroom where they're uncovering new, exciting ideas. So every day should be like a field trip. The children should have that type of excitement and anticipation. And the teachers should have that type of zeal too. Because guess what? That passion is contagious. So if we look for innovative ways to reach every child, even the ones who are having difficulties, especially the diverse learners, because otherwise they'll be left behind, they'll be discouraged, they'll have limited choices, and then they'll resort to a lot of times things that they shouldn't do because they don't have opportunities. So this is symbolic of every child in school and how that experience should be for each one. Everyone in the building should have that type of intensity and the type of, they should feel like we got to get this in them, because you have only a small amount of time. I was just telling the 8th graders, before you know it, graduation is going to be here. And we want to prepare. All right. Okay. So it was a challenge. Afterward, it was a chance that he found his calling. Okay. After he found out he had dyslexia, he found his calling. While he was working as a janitor, listen to this, he received as a tip tickets to a play. Harry had been to a play before and fell in love with the theater. Yes! He took acting classes and started auditioning, but when he landed a job at a nightclub singing popular songs, he found success. Yes! As his career grew, Harry chose to stop singing familiar hits and instead sang the Caribbean folk songs he had heard growing up, such as the Banana Boat song, My Girl, I can't think of her, oh my goodness, Beautiful Woman, Dancer too, Jump in the Line. Americans hadn't heard anything like this music, and Harry became a singing sensation known as the King of Calypso. Throughout his career, Harry received numerous awards for his performances as well as for his humanitarian work. He never took any roles that demeaned Black people, and later he created his own film production company, which made movies that defied stereotypes of Blackness. Harry gave a voice to the underrepresented cultures and altered the image of Black people in the media. Harry worked with his friend Martin Luther King Jr. and fought for civil rights, marching and protesting, as well as encouraging other celebrities to participate. He even helped organize the 1963 March of Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Harry used his talents, popularity, and prestige to help make real change in the world. He encouraged future generations of artists to use their voices for good. What are we going to use? Our voices, our body, our hands, our feet. Use everything for good to make this a better society. Good night.